Once a year, the guys who run Victoria and Albert sit down together and ask each other, how are we going to top last year? That's no easy question to answer because the standards here are already sky high. Let's take a peek behind Disney World's poshest restaurant. Victoria and Albert's is the definition of a fancy restaurant. It's luxuriously appointed with fresh flowers, fret linens from Italy, and Wedgwood fine china. A harpist entertains during dinner while guests are doted on by the waitstaff. The restaurant has one server for every 5 guests. Men are asked to wear jackets, and parents are discouraged from bringing young children. The menu is loaded with items that truly merit the word gourmet. Those are just the foundations upon which Victoria and Albert's indulges its guests. Special little details distinguish this restaurant from possibly every other one in town. Upon being seated, guests are handed a menu with their name on it. If an employee eyes a lady rubbing her shoulder, he'll bring over a cashmere shawl in case she's cold. The restaurant specializes in single-hand service. That means that all entrees at a table are served at exactly the same time, each plate's dome removed in sync with the others. Want salt on your food? A server will grind pink salt from the Himalayas to your liking. Oh, there's more. If you show up with luggage, a Victoria and Albert's employee will go to the front desk and check you in, and have your bags placed in your room so you needn't bother after dinner. If you have food allergies or are a vegetarian, even a vegan, the kitchen will go out of its way to meet your needs. Chef Scott Hunnell, who has been at the helm of the restaurant's kitchen since 1994, says he wants even vegans to leave Victoria and Albert saying it was one of the finest dinners they've ever had. You'd think the culinary staff would struggle to come up with new ideas regularly, but in fact, the chefs use the entire world as their source book.
Well, inspiration comes from many different ways. Certainly, like I think Israel was speaking about the traveling. We travel around, the company sends us to different locations. The last one was Spain and Austria and Germany, and there were so many wonderful Michelin three-star restaurants that we visited. So, and a lot of times you go and it validates sometimes what you're doing as well, and then you see if you're on the right track, number one, and then, pick up different ideas that they're doing, whether it's customized dishes, some of the new different styles of food, and certainly some of the foods that is grown specifically in certain regions around the country. And to be able to go to some of the farms and see that, it's just incredibly inspiring.
What does that mean for carnivores? Just imagine. Every dinner at Victoria and Albert's is a 7-course repast. Tonight's menu, for example, will feature post South Carolina quail with black mission figs and Fuji apples. The menu also features Australian Kobe beef tenderloin with potato cylinder and 4-hour braised Kobe short ribs. That will be served with smoked garlic potato puree, a mini pitcher of oxtail jus, and that Himalayan rock salt. The menu changes regularly, but it's always a creative American affair with international influences.
One of the trips that we went to was the Austria, and it was a resort out there called the Schloss Fuschel, and probably one of the finest dining experiences of my entire life. I mean, and I've dined in many different restaurants in our country as well as abroad, but this one was just phenomenal. One of the courses that just kind of pushed me back and sat back in my chair and just had to sit there and look at it for about 5 minutes before I can even enjoy it was this glass dish that was covered with a saran wrap, and then underneath there he had a little tuna cubes cut so perfectly, and then it was all engulfed in smoke. So, and each time you poked on this little plastic wrap, the smoke would puff up and just give you those senses. So I brought back this idea. So I come back and, a lot of times I'll think about it for a little while, then all of a sudden it'll click. So we created this dish with the smoke, and I wanted a specific flavor of the smoke. So we got some alder wood, we got some hickory wood, and we made little chips out of it, and we put them in this little smoker and then pipe it underneath the glass after smoking the ingredient itself over these woods as well. And then you just take this glass off and it gives a nice little puff of smoke. So not only are you getting the visual effects, you're using all your senses.
And Ms. Gindin, our cheese course. Working left to right, same part of France that gives us brie. We have a Pierre Robert, a cow's milk triple cream with Spanish fig cake. Cherry, goat's milk cheese from Spain called Montenegro with dots of 8-year balsamic, toasted fruit bread, and the Colston Bassett Stilton, the #1 Stilton in the UK. A little Belgium endive with upland watercress and spiced walnuts and date, to which I'm adding a little blue fondue, our forme d'ambert. Please enjoy.
Each course, from the amuse-bouche through the dessert, is a creation based on market-fresh items.
For dessert, I'm particularly proud of because I have very special chocolates. One, we make a trio of desserts because we try to mix up smaller desserts and have maybe a different selection for the guests. So anyway, I have 3 different chocolates. One is from Hawaii, which is a very vintage chocolate, one from Tanzania, and one from Peru. And they're very rare chocolates, especially the one from Peru. They only make a few thousand pounds a year, and we got most of it. So it's a fantastic chocolate, and they all have very different flavors.
Thought even goes into Victorian Albert's bread service, which is called progressive.
Basically what progressive bread service really is serving with different courses, different breads. And we are very proud of here to make really fresh breads every day. They're just made before service every day. And like here we have one lighter roll, which is a crusty roll. We serve this with olive oil. Or we have a brioche for the third course, which we serve with a herb butter and also herbs inside, really fresh chopped just before baking.
As you might imagine, the V&A team is just as concerned with enhancing the service continually as it is with bringing the food to yet a higher level. Under the careful eye of manager Israel Perez, Victorian Albert's enhances its service every year. After his last visit to Europe, Israel added a new element of pageantry to the restaurant's wine service. What kinds of service ideas do you come back with from your trips abroad?
You know, what we do is we like to travel every year, and our servers sometimes get a little scared because every time Scott and I come back from a trip, we come up with a lot of ideas. I believe that the decanting idea was one of those. We've been to several restaurants in the United States and we have not seen, many of the techniques that we saw in France and we've seen in Germany and Spain and Austria. And those were some of the ones that we wanted to bring in. Probably 2 different reasons. For younger vintages, there's something called tannins, which is a natural preservative that comes from the seeds and the skin of the grapes. And those are going to be pretty present, in young wines. If I have some older vintages, sometimes a little sediment is going to collect in the bottom of the bottle, and I want to make sure that the sediment stays in the bottle and it doesn't go into the decanter. So there's 2 purposes.
You'd think a 7-course meal with wine pairings would be enough for guests, but in fact, many order port and cognac. Victorian Albert's has a world-class collection of each.
So many of the vintages are very, very classic. In some of the bottles you'll notice probably a little bit of dust, and I think that dust shows the respect that we have toward the bottle. Some of those bottles from the 1950s and the 1930s we do not want to touch. I think that is part of the legacy of the bottle, and we just do not touch them. We leave their dust to show part of their age.
Israel Perez is one of many certified sommeliers at the Walt Disney World Resort. While he uses his expertise to pair wines with every dish on the Victorian Albert's menu, he has an amazing number of colleagues who can do the same. Disney World boasts 300 certified sommeliers on staff, which complements the complex's 350 chefs. While Victorian Albert's is a hideaway on its own, it has a chef's table, which is even more of a surprise. In the back of the working kitchen is a 10-seat table that can be reserved for private parties. You won't hear harp music, but you will be doted on by the chefs, who will prepare a special meal to your liking. One hint, reserve very early. Victorian Albert's may not be what you expect from Disney World, but indeed, the Mouse is full of splendid surprises in terms of food and beverage. This is the ultimate special occasion restaurant. I'm Rona Gindin, and we're on the town. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any comments or suggestions, write to us at onthetown@mybrighthouse.com.
To read more about local restaurants from Rona Gindin, subscribe to Orlando Magazine. Visit Orlando Magazine online at www.orlandomagazine.com.